Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, for joining us in the latest webinar that we have on bioenergy development in Asia. So my name is Bharadwaj Kumamuru. I'm the Executive Director at the World Bioenergy Association. And I'm pleased to, as we slowly welcome the participants, attendees joining in, I'll briefly go through, for those who don't know much about the World Bioenergy Association, I'll have a couple of slides about who we are, what we do, before I hand over to Alan Sherrard from Bioenergy International. Quickly, this is the first, we've already done 4 webinars earlier this year as part of a spring series, and now this is an autumn series, where we start with the first webinar on biomass development in Asia. This is followed by 3 more webinars on cooking, on pellet production in Central and South America, and liquid biofuels. We're pleased to do this together with Bioenergy International. And just to give you a flavor of the participants, we've had in cumulative, in total about 1,700 registrations from more than 113 countries for the spring series in total. And we do expect a lot of enthusiastic participants this time as well. Quickly, all the recordings and the presentations will be made available after the event, and you can also ask questions through the chat function during the course of the webinar. Where do we have most of the registrations from? 40% from Europe, 16% from Africa, 21% from the Americas, both South and North. In terms of where do they come from, a significant chunk comes from the industry. But we do, as you see, there's a whole bunch of participants from a variety of backgrounds who join our webinars. The World Bioenergy Association, we are an industry association based in Stockholm, where we promote the sustainable development of bioenergy. We do international advocacy work, but also provide a platform for engagement for our members. And the members come from a wide variety of backgrounds, both solid, liquid, and gaseous fuels. This is sort of all the logos of all the members that we have right now in the WBA. And if some of you are interested to be a part of the World Bioenergy Association, the membership is open for all companies and associations in the field of bioenergy. You'll be invited to the various benefits of being a member, being invited to speak at various events, be a part of our delegations to various high-level forums, access to member-only publications, and also participate in various working groups that we have. This is a lineup of the events that we have upcoming later this year, so we're more than happy to have you join us in some of these events shortly. And to conclude, again, all the people who've registered will receive the recordings and the presentations, as well as more information about membership later after the webinar. And you can contact us on info@worldbioenergy.org for more information. And with that, I'll stop, and then I give the floor to Alan to introduce Bioenergy International.
Thank you very much, Bharadwaj. Alan Sherrard is my name, and I work for Bioenergy International. We're a subscription-based English language publication and media platform. Next slide. We're based in Stockholm, Sweden, and we're owned by the Swedish Bioenergy Association. We work as an independent entity within the association. We're located in the same offices as Bharadwaj and World Bioenergy Association. Our purpose is really quite simple. By using the power of example, it is to promote and advocate for the benefits of bioenergy done right, and its role as an integral part of the global bioeconomy. Next. So I've really not much more to say. We're a paper version, and we have an online platform. And as participants in this webinar, as in all the webinars that we organize together with World Bioenergy Association, there's a nice little discount offer, which you'll receive when you receive the presentations. That's it. Bye for now, and look forward to hearing more from speakers.
Perfect. Thank you, Alan. And with that, I'll stop with the introduction and give the floor over to President Christian Rakosh, who will be the moderator and will take you through the rest of the webinar. So Christian, your turn.
Thank you very much. Just to add to Alan's presentation, Bioenergy International is actually official publication of the World Bioenergy Association, and our members have a free subscription to Bioenergy International. So please consider that when you consider to become a member of WBA. Yes, today's webinar will give us an insight into very interesting and rapidly developing bioenergy countries, into Japan and China. Two countries that have been really very ambitious and will continue to be ambitious in developing bioenergy as an alternative to fossil fuels. And these both countries have taken quite different pathways. In Japan, the pathway has been very much focused on converting electricity production from coal to biomass, whereas in China, a lot of attention has been paid to rural energy supply for heating and cooking, which was based in the past very much on coal, polluting, and which has an opportunity to become clean and based on renewable bioenergy. So these will be the two examples. They show how different approaches can be to use bioenergy depending on the local conditions. And with that, without any further ado, I will pass the floor now first to Takanobu Aikawa. He is senior researcher at the Renewable Energy Institute in Japan. He is also director of the Japanese Woody Biomass Association, and he is board member of WBA. So Takanobu, over to you.
Thank you, kind introduction, Christian. So let me share my screen first. Just a moment. Can you see my screen? Okay, thank you. So everyone, good evening or good morning. My name is Taka Aikawa from Renewable Energy Institute, senior researcher of this institute. And thank you for WBA and Bioenergy International for having me as a speaker of today's webinar. And today I would like to talk about the future, of course, current status and the future bioenergy market in Japan, focusing on short or medium term, such as 2030 or 2035, which I believe that critical years for the global energy transition, and it's not exemption in Japan. Before starting, let me introduce Renewable Energy Institute, or REI, briefly. I'm afraid that some of you are not familiar with REI, but REI is an independent think tank in Japan, based in Tokyo, and comes from a very solid background, founded by Mr. Masayoshi Son, who is the CEO of SoftBank Group, that is the IT giant in Japan. And the board chairman is Mr. Thomas Koberiel, who is the former chief of Swedish Energy Agency. We are basically doing policy research and advocacy activities, and also making international networks. So today's webinar is a perfect opportunity for us. And in this slide, I'm sharing some examples of REI's appearance in the International Bioenergy Conference, in particular in Asian area. For example, business conferences such as CMT Biomass in Tokyo or Argus Biomass Asia in Singapore. And also we are very active to collaborate with some international organizations such as IEA Bioenergy or IRENA or something like that. And also we are very, we think that it's important to support the government's activities. So sometimes we participated in the government's workshop as an expert. Okay, so let me start with introducing our latest flagship study, I believe that this is the first comprehensive report which shows the possibility that renewables can supply almost 80% of electricity in 2035, corresponding to the IPCC's latest fixed assessment report. We published this in April 2023, aiming to make an inference on the G7 discussion in Sapporo, as well as the coming discussion heading towards the next energy basic plan. I will show the main results using these three charts. The upper left pie chart describes the current status, fiscal 2024. As you can see, only about 20% of our electricity comes from all types of renewable, from solar, wind, bio, and geothermal, hydro and geothermal. Unfortunately, we are still heavily dependent on fossil fuels like LNG, 34%, and coal for roughly 31%. And the contribution of nuclear might be limited than you expected. And the current, center bottom describes the current Japanese government's plan in 2030. You can see renewable energies is expected to increase significantly from 20% today to about 38%, almost double, but which cannot be considered as an ambitious target, I believe. And nuclear, it's a very ambitious and not realistic, though it is true that the government's GX strategy promotes nuclear heavily. And phase out of fossil fuels, especially coal, might be not enough, but the impact would be huge. Even the government's plan, it is obvious that we have to reduce coal drastically from 31% in 2021 to 19% in 2030. And yeah, for your reference, current consumption of thermal coal in Japan is about 100 million tons. So if we reduce coal dependency to 2030, roughly 30 million tons of coal will be substituted by some other sources or some low carbon fuels, including biomass. That is that would be the huge amount. And in upper right, you can see the REI's proposal for 2035. According to our study, coal can be phased out as zero, and the nuclear, we don't need to rely on nuclear anymore. And renewable energies can provide about 80% of electricity supply, with 40% from solar and 20% from wind. And it is very important to see that bioenergy accounts about 10% of electricity mix. And you can see that which is larger than that of Metis government's assumption. So I will explain it in detail with this slide. Yeah, actually, I would say that our forecast is based on realistic observation of policy and market. Our scenario assumes that feed-in tariff scheme projects will be flattened in the late 2020s, as shown in the left chart, while coal conversion including old industrial power producers like pulp and paper or chemical and steel, which will be incentivized with other policy and private initiatives, which I will explain later. So to summarize, for the feed-in tariff projects, REI's outlook for 2035 is about 47 terawatt hours, which is almost same with the MEDI's target for 2030. However, our analysis takes non-FIT project into account, and we anticipate extra about 40 terawatt hours. And the total can be estimated as 86 terawatt hours, which is roughly 10% of total mix. And in this slide, I will touch upon 3 policy measures which could drive energy transition from fossil to biomass, of course. The first one is Energy Conservation Act, which allows biomass co-firing to meet the minimum energy efficiency, right, 43%. And what's more, in 2022, the law was revised to require industries and business to utilize non-fossil fuels, such as hydrogen, of course, i.e. fuel, and biomass. For major industries, METI showed suggested targets for coal reduction, which is equivalent for more than 10 million tons of coal in total. It will be reduced purely by improving energy efficiency, of course, but probably mainly by replacing with low carbon fuels, including biomass. And the second policy instrument is a long-term decarbonized power plant auction, which is a kind of auction mechanism, auction market mechanism. And this is designed to ensure the power generation capacities in the power market that cheap renewable electricity occupies, while encourage investment for decarbonized power plant by providing the long public support, as I shown in this slide. And the third one is carbon pricing mechanism. To be frank with you, this scheme is heavily criticized domestically or internationally because the indicated CO2 price are too low and the timing is too late. However, it can contribute to biomass deployment somewhere. So those incentives policy tools are not so clear compared to FIT tariff scheme, but we believe that it can certainly drive the energy transition and incentivize bioenergy deployment. And in addition to policy incentives, the energy crisis that we are facing today has changed the market drastically. As everybody knows, Russian invasion to Ukraine triggered skyrocketing fossil fuel price hike in the world, of course, and Japan is not the exemption. And as the result of historical high price of coal in 2022, I'm showing in the gray line, we could see the price of coal was reversed with wood pellet and the PKS, which are the two major fuels that Japan is using. And though, yeah, of course, it's very important to notice that those two major biomass fuels see upward price trend as well. But in addition to the purely market mechanism, carbon pricing might be contribute to make biomass market favorable for users. So under these circumstances, it is exciting to see some bioenergy conversion project without subsidies. The first announcement was made by IREX, followed by Daiwa House, which is one of the largest building developers in Japan. And we believe that this is driven by increasing business demand of renewable electricity such as RE100, together with higher electricity price in the market. So both Elex and Daiwa House do retail business of electricity, which enables them to adapt a new strategy. Okay, so from here, I will spend several slides to explain the fuel dynamics, which is very important for bioenergy sector, of course. Firstly, this chart is describing the historical trend of solid biomass fuel consumption in Japan. Please note that black liquor in the gray chart, gray bar, is used which is used for power and steam production for pulp and paper mill, is included because it can be considered as the byproduct of wood fuels. As you can see, both secondary and the lumber remnants, which is residues from sawmill, or black liquor, as well as tertiary biomass, such as demolished wood or waste wood, is the majority of solid fuel mix in Japan. While we could see the steady growth in primary forest biomass, such as thinned wood or harvest residues in light green, and also imported biomass like PKS and wood pellets. I will explain this in this chart, in this slide, sorry. So about rapid growth biomass imports. So as you can see in the previous slide, it is true that imported biomass, both PKS and wood pellets, has been increasing sharply and reached about 5 million tons of in 2022, respectively. Regarding wood pellets, Vietnam and Canada has been the main suppliers, and the US, the United States, joined recently. To be honest, or to be frank with you, imported biomass is not so popular for the general public and the public policy makers because the economic ripple effect is limited or lower than a domestically sourced one. Moreover, non-experts have limited knowledge about how biomass fuels are produced in the sourcing countries. So that's why this rapid increase of imported biomass has triggered sustainability discussion. So facing the social pressure, Ministry of Economy, which is responsible for energy policy, developed the sustainability criteria for the feed-in tariff scheme, of which main items are shown in the table. I think this is the first comprehensive sustainability criteria in Asia region. And from environment to, you can see from environment to social labor issues, as well as governance items are checked accordingly. And regarding GHG emission reduction, we developed the methodologies of life cycle assessment, and reflecting or learning from European countries or EU's experience. Those methodologies were developed, and as well as default values of a lot of fuel pathways were revealed. As you can see, the project which were approved by feed-in tariff scheme before 2030 are required to meet 50% reduction or 90 grams CO2 per megajoule electricity. And after 2030, the threshold will be uplifted to minus 70%, which is which is 54.4 grams CO2 per megajoule. So that's why the business players carefully watch manage to their GHG emissions under those threshold. And feed-in tariff schemes allows business players to utilize third-party certification schemes to show verification with sustainability criteria. In the beginning, RSPO was used as the benchmark since there were some projects to use palm oil as fuel. And after discussion, those biomass-specific certification schemes such as RSP, ISCC, and GGL were approved for agricultural biomass like PKS, and they can provide the GHG calculation tools. And the issue is about woody biomass because both FSC and PFC have been used. However, to meet the GHG's regulation, as well as the recent scandal that FSC broke some major Vietnamese wood pellet supplier, both SDP and the GGL are examined and are expected to approved soon under the feed-in tariff scheme. Okay, so so far I have been explaining about the power sector mainly, and some policies may contribute to bioheat especially in the industrial users. But I would like to say that SAF or sustainable aviation fuel is one of the hottest topics in Japan. And for the bioenergy industry, it is the very important case that could easily have social and policy support. And yeah, actually, in the spring of this year, Japan government announced that it would have SAF mandate for 10% of international aviation fuel consumption, which would be equivalent for 171 million kiloliter of SAF. And there are already several projects announced to A2Jet, alcohol-to-jet projects, which is, with 32 million kiloliters, and to FEFR, which use bio-based oils with 43 million kiloliters. It is really exciting to see many interesting projects, while it is needed to have more 100 million tons of SAF projects. And in my opinion, there are two main challenges. The first one is feedstock availability. Of course, UCO, used cooking oil, is already used well. And some companies are trying to utilize POME, which is the residues from palm oil industry, and also energy crop production is considered. And the second one is creating markets with policy incentives for co-products from production process, such as renewable diesel and any types of biochemicals like biomassa. And what's more, it should be highlighted that conventional forest industrial players launched cutting-edge process development using woody biomass as feedstock for SAF production. So I hope that SAF could bring exciting opportunities to expand the bioenergy or bioeconomy in Japan. Okay, so let me wrap up with this slide. As everybody understands, the transition for clean energy requires drastic change of our energy and the social system everywhere in the world. And there are so many things that we have to consider, not only for technological side, but social or policy issues. So it is highly important for us to work together, not only in the national level, but international level. so that we can accelerate the transition. So thank you very much for invitation to today's webinar. I'm looking forward to having any questions or comments after that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Taka. So let me section if there are specific questions to your presentation. There is one presentation, one question that is asking how easy will it be for Japan to really quit nuclear and coal energy in such a short period of time? How do you see the opportunities in that respect? Because this is a really very, very ambitious goal. Please, Taka.
Yeah, thank you very much. Firstly, regarding nuclear, yeah, it's true that as I mentioned, it's true that the government is very active, work hard to restart some nuclear reactors. But many experts who think that the cost of nuclear is much more higher than expected, especially due to the strengthened safety regulations. So in the economical sense, we don't expect that the contribution from nuclear power plants is very limited in the future. So that is the answer for nuclear. And regarding fossil fuels, especially coal, the situation is, of course, very complicated, and both government and the industry faces strong pressure from international community, including financial sector. But so that's why basically they are searching opportunity to reduce the coal utilization. And again, the government in this field, the government is very active to promote hydrogen or ammonia as a fuel, alternative fuel. But the business players understand that it takes time to have enough affordable ammonia or hydrogen. So that's why if they look for realistic option, biomass is one of the most the only solution for the at least in a short term, like 2030 or 2035. And also the accelerating other renewable sources like solar and wind are very critical for decarbonization of our sector. So that's why the RAI is very working hard for this sector.
Thank you, Taka. And there is another question I would like to you to discuss, and that is what kind of enforcement of sustainability criteria will the Japanese government implement? Because just asking for them does not necessarily mean that they will be met. So what kind of enforcement is foreseen?
Thank you. It's another very important topic. So basically, if bioenergy cannot be considered as sustainable, it doesn't make sense. So that's why the feed-in tariff scheme introduced the comprehensive sustainability criteria. Yeah, but to be precise with you, it is mainly for agricultural products, fuels like PKS, because wood biomass is managed by a forest agency, so there is bureaucracy between or among those fuels. So that's why personally I'm working hard to integrate regulations among fuel types. And as I mentioned, we anticipate rapid growth from non-FIT projects. So that's why sustainability regulation should be able to cover the all types of biomass and any projects in any fields or in the policy program. So yeah, I have to admit that there is a challenge that we have to work on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Taka. And with that, I think we should move over to our next speaker. It is Professor Guangqing Liu. He is director at the Research Center for Biomass, Energy, and Environmental Engineering at the Technical Chemical University of Beijing. Guangqing Liu is also a board member of WBA, and he is president of the China Alliance for Clean Stoves. So Guangqing, thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours. I think you're still muted.
Okay, thank you, Christian. And it's an honor for me to have this presentation about the biomass clean cooking and heating in rural China. China is a very big country, and the biomass is one of the main fuels for cooking and heating, especially for the area in rural China. So I will introduce some technologies and policies, standards, and also some case studies in China. And China is a big country, and coal is the main fuel in past years. And we can see from this picture, and in past 30 years, in 1990, the coal is the domain fuels have the ratio about 78%. But up to now, the coal is declined to almost 56, and the electricity is increased from 5% to around 30% this year. The total energy consumption of the China is about 5.2 billion tons coal, and the clean energy, the ratio is about 25%, and the renewable energy ratio is about 14%. For the cooking fuels, in past years, the cooking fuels have a very big change. And because most people transfer the fuels from the coal to electricity and natural gas for cooking, but for heating energy and also for most areas in west and some rural area of China, the solid waste, solid fuel is still the main fuels for cooking and heating. It's not only China, and also for most country in developing country, such like East South country and some Africa country, the clean energy, the access rate is not too high. China now is only 64, but most developed countries no more than 50. There are lots of potential for people to find more clean energy for cooking and heating. And the solid waste combustion is a very big disease burden for people, especially for women and children. And because the coals and biomass combustion have lots of emission and cause a very heavy indoor air pollution. And what's your daily cooking and heating fuels in your country? And most people use natural gas, electricity in developed country, but most people in developing countries use the biomass. Of course, some country like China and Mongolia and some Russia, maybe some people use the coal. China has plenty of the biomass resources. We have more than 800 million tons strong agricultural residue from the crops, and more than 1,000 million tons from the forest and the orchards. And there have more than 2,000 manufacturers for producing the pellets in China. And there's more than 20 million tons pellets production every year in China. That's a very big production. I collect some picture from other developed countries, and some countries I visited in past years, and many developed countries also in China in past years, even in some very remote areas, still use a very traditional stoves for cooking and heating. So the purpose of China is how we can replace the coal to the clean energy. Of course, the clean energy, we can use the natural gas, electricity, also biomass is one of the clean energy. China have the very quickly economic development in past years, and some people, even in villages, some people use the natural gas and also methanol for cooking and stoves, and some people use the electricity because there is a variety device and equipments for cooking and heating in China use the electricity, but also many people use the coal and biomass for heating and cooking in rural areas in China. So because China have plenty of biomass, so some biomass is free, like the straw and the coal crops and the firewood. The people can collect from their land and the mountain, but some is market. They can buy from market for the pellets and the biomass briquettes, and also some of the biomass chips. So coal is the main fuels, still the main fuels for farmers, because China have plenty of coal. But the coal still can have the raw coal and also have the clean coal by some washing process and some chemical process. We can produce the clean coal briquettes and honeycomb coal from the raw coal. It's also a very clean energy. So in past years, China government promotes many technologies for clean cooking and heating, and some is gas, some electricity, but some is biomass pellets and also biomass cooking and heating technology. Some technologies for households, one every small family, and some is centralized scale for heating for one village or one building for farmers. So here are listed some pellets making machines and pellets making technologies in China. I mentioned that there is more than 20 million tons of pellets produced every year by more than 2,000 manufacturers in the whole China. And the clean coal is also very big market and industry, because many companies produce the clean coal from the raw coal for farmers. The combustion is very efficiency and the emission is very low. And also the biomass stove. The biomass stoves is many types of biomass stoves, and some stoves is only for cook. It's a very small stove and only for cook, but some stoves is for not only for cook and also for heating. Some heating is use the radiant heating. It's not the pipe with water, but some heating stoves use a pipe with water water pipe heating for warming the room. Here's a list of some products in China for cooking. Some stuff is used in China, but some stuff is exported to developed country like Africa and Southeast countries. Yeah. Here I list some stoves with the cooking and heating two function combined. It's not only for cooking with pot on the top, and also can warming the rooms with the wall of the stoves by the radiant heat. So here's the stoves about the different function. Some is with the water piping heating. Some is heat by the radiant heat, and some is hot blast. Some is wall hung stoves like many families used in Europe and America. Yeah, of course, some stoves is used combined with the bands. The bands combined with the stove. The stove's heat can go through the bands for heating for farmers. Yeah, this is a special stove in China. Yeah. Here at least some is the centralized biomass stove boilers in China use pellets and briquettes and chips for heating the whole villages or heating for one building. And this is another boiler, centralized heating boilers use the strong bell. Yeah, it's not we needed to make the pellets, because make pellets we need more energy for mix and for press. But the strong bell is very easy to collect and very cheap, so we can just use this one for heating. So this technology also promoted in Europe, like Denmark, and many places use this technology. The policy in China, we have because China the President Xi is a great leaders. So he promised many climate change for the world. The responsibility in China, because Asia and the CO2 production is very big, especially in Asia, is have a very big, lots of the CO2 production. And we also, China president also have a very nice conception is green water and green mountains is the gold, silver, and is gold, silver mountain. This is a very famous speaks by the President Xi. And carbon neutralization pathway is a carbon replacement and carbon emission reduction and carbon sequestration and carbon cycle. And use the biomass to replace the coal is a very important pathway to reduce the CO2 production. Of course, we have many technologies in China. It's not only biomass for heating and cooking, and some is for anaerobic digestions for biogas, some is thermal pyrolysis for syngas, and some is biomass digestion for liquid fuels, and some is biomass cooking and heating, just like what I talked today. And there's lots of the emission about the PM SO2 and the NOx is from the village, yeah, because the village use most of the living energy for cooking and heating. There's lots of pollutions in past years. But the China government, we have lots of policy from the national level of different ministries and provincial level to give the policy to support the clean heating and cooking for peoples. The China government, they have some recommendation technologies for clean cooking and heating, including electricity, biomass, natural gas, geothermal, and solar energy. Here I list some of the policies announced, issued by the China government. We can see the red words is mostly biomass, fuels plus stoves and boilers. So China government have a lot of policy to support the biomass for heating and cooking. Here a list is the newest policy is 14th 5 years plan for renewable energy of China. So I just copy 2 sentences from the plan. So we can see the developing biomass energy for clean heating is a very big policy in China. The China government also give a lot of subsidy to promote the biomass heating. So this subsidy not only for equipments and devices, and also subsidy for farmers to buy the biomass pellets. And here I very quickly to go through the standards because the standards is very important for some sustainable development for any technologies. So China, we have a big system for the standards construction. So here I list some standards not only for fuels, the biomass pellet fuels, and also for coal fuels, and also different standards for biomass stoves, and different standards for biomass boilers, and also we have the emission standards for different types of stoves and boilers. Yes, many standards. So it's a very good system for companies can follow up the standards to keep the quality of the stoves and the pellets. So finally, I introduced some case studies, and here is at least one of a small county, not small because China is very big. Yeah, this county have 854 villages in this county, and 2000 before 2017, all the people use the coal for cooking and heating. And but in the past five years, the county promotes the biomass heating and the cooking for the whole counties. And also China government give the subsidy to help the farmers to buy the equipments and the biomass pellets. So in the past 4 years, totally they promote more than around 10,000 biomass stove for the peoples. So almost 95% of the total families use the biomass for cooking and heating. So they have many benefits: social benefits, environmental benefits, and economic benefits. So the second, this one is is another case is use the biomass cooking and heating stoves plus the biomass brackets to replace the coal for heating and cooking together for farmers in Shanxi province. And here another case study is the small cooking stove. You know, the most country in east or south areas not have the problem of the heating because they are very warm. They only use the cooking. So we produced the small cooking stove for the developing countries. Here is the China government give the donation of the 10,000 stoves for Myanmar to use the China stoves for help people to clean cooking. Okay, suggestion. So future, I also want to work with WBA and work with all the partners. We want to have a platform for alliance for clean fuels and stoves, because there's more than 3 billion people in the world, especially in developing countries, still suffering from the very serious pollution of the solid fuels for cooking and heating. So I think this is a very big job for us to work together for future. The final for this October 19 to 21st this year, we will have a very good international cooperation forum or clean cooking and heating with biomass, and we will invite many international experts and also many companies in China to join together in Beijing, just in my universities. So welcome all of you if you have time. So welcome all of you can join this forum in Beijing. I will have a very good reception for you. And thank you very much. And thank you, Christian. Thank you all.
Many thanks, Guanqing, for this comprehensive view on how China is engaging in clean cooking and clean heating in rural areas. There were a couple of questions that were raised that I would like to ask you. First of all, there was a question, how is raw coal being processed to enable clean combustion? So what is clean coal actually? What kind of fuel is clean coal?
Okay, because in China there is many raw coal. The raw coal is there is many contents like sulfur, and also other harmful chemical contents. So we use the different technology like water washing, and also some like sulfur. The chemical can keep the sulfur not to emit in the air pollution. So there's many technologies we use that to produce the clean coal, like a clean coal, the very small clean coal from the raw coal to do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then another question was related to the way you will be using biomass in the future. Do you see a role for pyrolysis? You have talked about pelletizing. There is discussions about gasification, about hydrothermal treatment of biomass to create black pellets. There is talking about torrefaction as a way to upgrade. Is that playing a role in your view in the future, or will it more be on using the biomass without thermochemical treatment?
Yes, you mean so we use the biomass without any treatment, or?
Yes, just with densification, or some companies are promoting to torrefy, for example, the biomass, to dry it at very high temperatures to produce biocoal, to be more easily used, for example, in industrial processes. Is that something that you are looking at in China?
Yes, in China, actually, mostly we just use the biomass pellets and biomass briquettes, and also strong bale. Yeah, strong bale is needn't any treatment.
Yes.
But the problem is we should to have a very large land to storage the strong bale. So they have the disadvantages, but the advantages is very cheap. needn't any process for make pellets. I think this strong bale is not suitable for any places. It's suitable for the places that have big land, have a very enough spaces, especially like in northeast of China. Because northeast of China, they have lots of very good land, very big land to produce the core. So core, they have lots of the straw from the core crops. So they are suitable to that. But for most area in China, we just use biomass pellets or biomass briquettes, the big one, the biomass briquettes. That's easy to use for automatically feeding system to do that. But in China, there is seldom we use that for the black you mean the black pellets is used temperature 200 temperature for is torsion.
Purification,
it's
yes.
it's not too much for that. But mostly in China we use the straw and the manure for produce the biogas. Produce the biogas.
One more question, Guangjing. You have mentioned that China is already today producing 20 million tons of pellets, which means that China is actually the largest producer of pellets in the world. But it hardly shows up in any no official figures. But I think that is a very exciting finding that you are already so far into using pellets. Can you estimate how many of these pellets are being used in the domestic appliances and how many are used in industrial applications?
Okay. I think for the domestic, because the data is difficult to collect because actually the statistic data is not very correct, not very accurate. But I think because there have about I think it's 3 million people use the biomass stoves. So each household will use 2 tons, 3 million or 5 million. So each 2 tons, and so I think it's 50-50. Yeah, maybe 50-50. Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We are approaching the end of our webinar. I think this was a very interesting excursion into bioenergy use in China and in Japan. We can see the opportunities, the huge resource base that has been mentioned, particularly for China, that can be used for bioenergy use, and the ambitious goals in Japan. Thank you all very much. Thank you, our presenters. Thank you, our listeners. And I look forward to meeting you in one of our next webinars. Goodbye.
Thank you.